Either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Today's topic is none other than an angry Russian boy named Electronic. But to see how he became a villain, we need to see how he became a hero in the first place. In late 2016, a young rifler named Electronic would join Blade's FlipSide Tactics. And during this time with the team, they would win DreamHack Astro Open Leipzig. I'm sorry, bro. This dude's calling me out on it. I'm an American! What do you expect? I'm trying. During this event, he would post a 1.34 rating and be the MVP. Now, this would be the only tournament FlipSide would win with Electronic, but he was looking to be one of the most exciting young riflers in the entire scene. And well, he would be a good enough prospect to catch the eye of Na'Vi. Then in late 2017, 19-year-old Electronic would be signed by Na'Vi to replace Seized. During his time with FlipSide, he'd post a 1.17 rating and average a 1.15 rating over the two majors that he'd play. And Na'Vi was hoping he'd be the last piece they truly need to be a contender. Because since they signed Simple, things have been a little rocky. They had, of course, won ESL 1 New York 2016, made the quarters of the E-League Major Atlanta, but then come in 12th to 14th place at PGL Major Krakow. They needed a little bit more juice, and maybe Electronic would be the one to bring that. And well, as we know, he absolutely would be. I mean, Simple and Electronic would go on to be one of the best op rifler duos in Counter-Strike history. Half the time, 2v5ing their way into deep playoff runs. Cause I mean, like, if you look at their team at this time, Zeus and Edward were nearing retirement home age. And you just never knew what form you were getting out of Flamey. So for the next 6 years, this duo would be the face of Na'Vi. They'd carry this team to tournament win after tournament win. And from 2018 to 2021, Simple wouldn't be placed outside of the top 2 players in the world, while Electronic would never place below 7th. Peaking at number 4. This was the original Monacy Nico, and with all due respect, they were absolutely better. Because unlike Monacy and Nico, these boys actually figured out how to win a major. 2021 would be the peak of this Na'Vi with Simple and Electronic, and along with the major run, they would be the dominant best team in the world. I mean, these boys were just untouchable. Now, of course, if you were watching CS around this time, this was a drastically different team than the one I mentioned earlier. Zeus, Edward, and Flamey were all long gone by this point, and replaced with Boomich, Bit, and Perfecto. Unfortunately, a peak is, well, a peak, and that fucker goes down. So the next year in 2022, they would be good, but not nearly as dominant. They'd make the finals of the major and lose to FaZe, then only win 1 tournament all year. The fall-off had begun, and then in June of 2023, Na'Vi would decide changes needed to be made. The only 2 players that would remain from the old Na'Vi team would be Simple and Bit. Electronic, NPL, and Perfecto would be replaced by JL, Ema, and Alexi B. Na'Vi was going international, and Electronic was not a part of their plans. This meant it was now unfortunately the end of an era, but one that could be looked back on very fondly. Then shortly after being benched, Electronic and Perfecto would join Cloud9 with Axile, Hobbit, and Shiro. This core had previously been dominant on Gambit in 2020/2021, even being the #1 ranked team in the world for honestly quite a while. So this new Cloud9 was by all means a brand new super team and a new chance for Electronic. But during this time on the team, it would be a disaster. As it is in all sports, issues can normally be covered up by success. If you're winning, nothing else really matters, and anything bad can kind of just be swept under the rug. But unfortunately, when you're not winning, these issues start to surface. During Simple's career, he was looked at as a toxic player. I don't think this is any secret.
Thank you for game, Dumas.
Thank you, Simple.
Really nice to play with you. You're playing like fucking bitch.
Germans. See ya in hell, Germans. Motherfuckers.
But it seems like his partner in crime may have been significantly worse.
They're just defeated. Look, the disbelief is like, what the hell did we just do?
Here's the
But before we get into this Cloud9 failure, let's go back and look at Electronic's career a little more closely. Boomich would be benched on Na'Vi after they lose to FaZe in that major final. Then after this, Electronic would take over as the IGL. Then to replace Boomich would be SDY. Immediately after this move, Na'Vi would win Blast Premier Spring Finals 2022. It seemed like the Electronic IGL move was a huge success. You fool. This would be the last tournament Electronic would ever win. Na'Vi would begin to slowly decline in form under his leadership until they'd get knocked out of the IEM Rio Major in quarters. But then after the team got knocked out, we get this clip.
в самом важном раунде. Понятно.
Electronic would blame pretty much the entire loss on Bit, saying, well, fuck, we cannot realistically win with these kind of mistakes. Bro, it's a mistake. You've sold every one of us. I'm fucking shocked. You've sold everyone in the most important round. No way we can win by making such mistakes. For fuck's sake, we were so fucking delusional thinking we could win something, but it's unreal with these mistakes. Dear God, I mean, if my leader was talking to me like that, I'm out. The vibes on Na'Vi were noticeably getting worse and worse under Electronic's leadership, and this would be something that would follow Electronic for the years to come, as every single team he joined would seem to decline in morale until they would just crumble. So after this disastrous tenure as the IGL and Na'Vi, Electronic would of course sign with his next victim, Cloud9. They wouldn't sign Electronic as just some old rifler, he would be IGLing this team as well. They would start out actually pretty decently, making quarters of Cologne, but similarly to Na'Vi, right after the first event with Electronic calling, they would start to slowly decline in form. Behind Electronic, this supposed super team would place 21st to 28th in ESL Pro League. I mean, that's some liquid type shit. That's just insane for a team of this caliber. So they would quickly realize, dear God, this Electronic guy cannot call. Get him out. They would then switch the IGL role from Electronic to Hobbit, but he lasted like, what, 2 events? They would immediately look better winning Blast Premier Fall European Showdown, but then unfortunately fall out of groups at IEM Sydney in 9th to 12th place. After this, the team's best player by a mile, Shiro, had seen the future of this team with Electronic, and like I said earlier, if my teammate was Electronic, I'd want out. Well, so did Shiro. So he would end up stepping down from the starting lineup. And honestly, that's one of the best decisions that man has ever made. Cloud9 would then go on to replace him with Boomich. So Electronic had been with the team for a total of 2 months and their best player had left. And now there were 3 players on the team who might be IGLing, but we don't really know. We also had Boomich and Perfecto switching off opping duties. I mean, like, what is going on in this team? Boomich would eventually take over the IGL duties full time, but let's be honest, Electronic initially joining this roster as the IGL, then switching off kind of cooked them. I mean, to be honest, they were just kind of doomed from the start. They would then go on to make the playoffs of the Copenhagen Major, but that was the team's best result. Then after a disappointing 9th to 12th place exit at IEM Chengdu, Electronic would be sold to Virtus.pro. Now, in Cloud9, we actually don't have a lot of public knowledge of what was said behind the scenes, but I can only imagine the horrid vibes and honestly what Electronic was saying to his teammates during this disappointing run. But what we do know for certain is that this team was completely crippled from the moment he joined. He'd post a 1.11 rating during his time, so at least he still knew how to frag, I guess, and that's kind of what VP were banking on. Then after joining VP, it seemed like there was almost immediately a power struggle. The quiet Sigma male gooners of VP began to become a little more loud and rowdy, kind of following in Electronic's footsteps. The team also started to play a little more aggressive and fast-paced, which was really strange for a James system. And kind of around this time, it became clear that James was losing control of this team incredibly quickly. So it was no surprise that at the end of 2024, he would be benched, and to replace him would be Electronic as the IGL. He had swooped in and stolen the team from Jame, that little snake, and then to replace Jame on the team would be Icy. Then Flamus would go on to replace Norbert.
So tell me about your thought process behind leaving that behind, you know, and moving on to Virtus.pro.
And also I wanted to play under Electronic because I really trust in his in-game leader abilities.
Then under Electronic IGL, VP would somehow go from a mediocre team to a straight up awful team. I mean, the consistency was almost completely gone at this point. At least under Jame in 2024, they made some semifinals. And with Electronic, they did make quarters of IEM Kato right at the start. And then, of course, like always, slowly got worse and worse and worse. Throughout part of this, the team's young rifler Flamus would be benched due to the team's dysfunction, which is crazy because he signed a 4-year contract, by the way.
Because I really trust in his in-game leader abilities.
But he's 20 years old and he's gonna rot on the bench because he joined a dysfunctional Electronic-led team. He only lasted 6 months, man. He's 20 years old. Oh yeah, and you remember that clip of him calling out Bit for apparently single-handedly costing Na'Vi a major playoff game? Well, he one-upped himself.
Earlier that second round, here's the
I mean, I just flicking love when my captain screams at me, man. I love it. I'm sure this helped the team's vibes. From Na'Vi to Cloud9 to VP, every single team has had horrendous vibes, and I mean, what's the one consistent factor? By all means, Electronic is a Counter-Strike terrorist. But thankfully, he would eventually be sentenced to death on August 19th, 2025. VP had finally had enough, and now Perfecto is replacing him as IGL. I mean, listen, VP's dysfunction is for another time, okay? And like, if I'm a tier 1 team IGL, I would be horrified to sign him. I am absolutely not touching him. I really don't think he'll get another chance in tier 1, and I mean, why should he? He seems to be a horrible leader. And I mean, the fragging at this point just isn't enough to save him. And even if he did still kind of frag, is it really worth you risking him just coming in and taking over the team? Like, he didn't join VP as an IGL. He joined because he showed he could still frag, but look at what happened. He couldn't just join a team to be a rifler. He had to come in and slowly destroy the team from the inside out until it was his. Like, how is killing people on your screen too much to ask? Maybe it's ego. I mean, who am I kidding? Of course it's ego. Now, maybe if he has some introspection, he could potentially find his way onto another tier 1 team, especially because, like, what is this, man? Details emerge about the fight between Electronic and World Edit. The players were drinking in a large group along with Norbert, Zoma, Zloba, and others. At one point, World Edit started saying that Electronic had been carried throughout his career and that he never developed as an individual. Okay, he was kind of asking for this, but anyways. Naturally, Dennis didn't take kindly to this and immediately responded with, "I'm gonna hit you right now," and he actually did. The next day, Georgie, World Edit, showed up at the Betboom Dacha studio with bruises. But Electronic didn't stop there, shouting across the venue. He's always been full of crap. He never understood CS, so why the hell is he talking shit to me? There's then, of course, this quote in the picture. I'm not sure if he actually said this or not, where he says, "I'll find you in Moscow and kill you, you fucking bitch." Now, since this has happened, they have made up, apparently, so you know, it's all water under the bridge at this point. But like, maybe we gotta work on our personality a little bit. Maybe we gotta work on being a little bit more calm, especially if you're gonna be a leader. You know, you cannot be having outbursts like this. And I mean, seeing how he had that outburst against Bit, seeing how he had that outburst on VP, I don't doubt that this probably did happen. If you're gonna be the leader of a team, you gotta know how to control your emotions, basically. But none of it really matters, because I can almost guarantee you he will be on BC Game with Simple by the time this video has released. So I mean, yeah, man, moral of the story, don't sign Electronic, because if you do, you're probably gonna get cooked. I mean, this dude is just ending every single team he joins. But anyways, that's it, fellas. Liking, subscribing, bye.